In the heart of chaos, where battles rage and destinies are forged, there stands a figure, a god of immense power and cunning. A being who has transcended the ranks of the ordinary, a deity worshipped by the most fearsome creatures of all the realms. Maglubiyet, the mighty conqueror, the Iron One, the supreme commander of all goblinoid hordes. Forged in the fires of conflict, his legends echo throughout the annals of Dungeons & Dragons, and from the earliest days of D&D to its present, Maglubiyet has evolved, adapted, and grown in power. Each edition revealing new facets of his story, his dominion, and his relentless pursuit of conquest. In Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, Maglubiyet is a simple god, though he is a greater one. He is lawful evil, and it is stated that he is worshipped by all goblins and hobgoblins. He's a huge black goblin type with red flames for eyes, sharp fangs, and clawed hands. He's a war god and a great general. He commands mighty armies of goblin spirits in hell, where they eternally war against Grumsh, god of the orcs, and his spirit army. The orcs always defeat the goblins in battle, but the goblin spirits always reform to start the battle again. Beyond this, not much is said about Maglubiyet. We see that even though he loses these battles in hell against Grumsh, he is more cunning than Grumsh. He has more strategy. He is just completely outmatched in number and size of armies. Not much is known about this character or this god, but he is brought up anytime there is mention of goblin or hobgoblin. It seems he is the absolute undisputed god, and they worship him to their core. In 2nd edition, some things change around a bit. We're told that Maglubiyet is not the only god of goblins and hobgoblins, and that he does have 2 lieutenants, though we are not told much about this relationship or how they found themselves in it. It is said that Maglubiyet is the creator of goblins and hobgoblins. His first lieutenant, Kurgor Bayag, is the god of slavery, oppression, morale, and all of the goblins. His counterpart, Nomag Gaia, is god of war, authority, and all hobgoblins. It is worth noting that not all goblinoids are underneath Maglubiyet, just goblins and hobgoblins. And all goblins at their core follow the philosophy of their one true god Maglubiyet, and their religion is crude and simplistic. They do worship and revere Maglubiyet, though only out of fear and loathing. Fear of Maglubiyet and what life might become without him. Maglubiyet demands sacrifices of animal blood by the tribal shaman at least once a month, and there are no other religious services held of any kind. He has no need of them. The religious life of a shamanless goblin tribe consists simply of fear. In 2nd edition, we are given more about where Maglubiyet actually resides with his infinite horde of goblin spirits on the plane of Acheron. And once again, we are told that Maglubiyet and Grumsh are in an infinite war, flinging their legions at each other in a feudal battle, neither side able to gain the upper hand. But some unexpected information we get about this war is that fiends from Beator come to Acheron to recruit both sides. Side note that remember that Beazitu are devils in 2nd edition and Tanari are the demons. On Acheron, Maglubiyet of the goblins and Grumsh of the orcs endlessly try to wipe each other's troops from the sides of the floating cubes. If they overcame their mutual hatred, they could both throw in with Beazitu full time. But that's not going to happen anytime soon. Each god has their bulk of his troops committed to the fight on Acheron, and neither side can lend strength to Beator unless the other decides to ease up a bit. When either army would try to do this, the other side would press their advantage. Thus, the deities must keep goblin and orc affairs in the blood war simple and short-lived. One of the major keys of the difference between goblins and orcs and their respective gods. It is revealed that Maglubiyet doesn't actually care much if the Beazitu win or lose the blood war. He figures that the victors will eventually look to conquer Acheron's cubes, where he presides, and he'll end up fighting them anyway. But for now, Maglubiyet wants to look good to the high-ups of Beator, the devils. If nothing else, it angers the orcs, and Maglubiyet does whatever he can to needle the followers of Grumsh. When Maglubiyet is able, he does help the Beatizu. He does it very subtly. Every move, every action is worked covertly through proxies and other leaders of his goblin minions. A carefully laid network of spies feeds a steady stream of chant back to Acheron from all fronts and cultures. Nothing is left to chance. And here lies the greatest difference between the orcs and the goblins. When Grumsh can spare followers for the Blood Wars, he sends his fiercest warriors. Grumsh rules his orcs with a fist of steel, and he bristles at the thought of the undisciplined Tanari, the demons, running amok in the multiverse. But he is not nearly as calculating as Maglubiyet. Grumsh simply sees chaos as weakness, and weakness must be burned away. In 3rd edition, despite appearing in over 30 books, Maglubiyet is given no new information. There are certain things like more details about where he resides on his plane of Acheron, the names of places and keeps, castles, things like that he keeps, but other than that, Maglubiyet is almost completely ignored. Though the reason he is mentioned over 30 times is whenever one mentions goblins or hobgoblins, Maglubiyet almost every instance is worthy of a mention next to their name. Maglubiyet is one of the most synonymous and in-sync gods with their followers and patrons. Some gods are content to live away, such as other humanoid races such as elves who are free to worship whatever gods they want, and many choose to. Goblins are unique. If you are a goblin, you worship Maglubiyet. If you don't live very long. And in 4th edition, it gets even worse for our goblin god. Through the introduction of a new god, an evil greater god called Bane. Bane, deserving of his own Forgotten Lore episode, thought to have been destroyed at one point, comes back in a mission to dominate every mortal soul on Toril. Not much is given about his rise to power in reference to Maglubiyet, but clearly something very, very bad has happened, because every time Maglubiyet is mentioned, 3 words appear next to his name. Exarch of Bane. Maglubiyet is no longer the strongest goblin god. It is said that goblins' nature can be traced to their reverence for their god Bane, whom they see as the mightiest hobgoblin war chief in the cosmos. Some of Bane's exarchs are goblins, such as Maglubiyet the Battle Lord. And all of those goblin gods now live on Banehold, a black bastion where Bane rules supreme and absolute. It is briefly mentioned that Bane has killed many deities in his rise to power, and he has drawn others into his command, like Maglubiyet. And we do get one small last snippet of Maglubiyet before we leave 4th edition. And it is said that Maglubiyet was once a full-fledged god, before Bane defeated him. He remains faithful to his conqueror, if only because he fears the consequences of disloyalty. This is an affront against the character that they have established through the first 3 editions of lore. What Bane has done to Maglubiyet, Maglubiyet has done to all that came before him. Do we believe that Maglubiyet would lie down and follow faithfully this pretender god of goblins? Though not much more is revealed, it is not clear if Maglubiyet has some secret plan to overthrow Bane or take back what is rightfully his and sit at the helm of all goblins once again. And finally, in 5th edition, we get the greatest transformations of Maglubiyet from any other edition, and the greatest look into his past. Maglubiyet truly is the conquering god. He stiffens the spines of cowardly goblins. He rouses bugbears from their lazy slumber. He sets the thunderous steps of hobgoblin legions. He takes 3 races and turns them into one people. In bygone times, the goblinoids were distinct from one another. Separate faiths, different customs. And then Maglubiyet came and conquered all who stood before him. Mortals and deities alike. Gods and heroes who wouldn't bend to his will were broken and discarded. He put his foot on the neck of mighty Kurgolbeeg, bound the will of intractable Krugek, and forced the sadistic Nomag Gaia to fall in line. What the goblins, bugbears, and hobgoblins were before their gods bowed to Maglubiyet no longer matters. Now they are, first of all, followers of Maglubiyet. On the surface, goblins, bugbears, and hobgoblins are as different as halflings, dwarves, and elves. Each race had its own tendencies, outlook, culture, and gods, but Maglubiyet's mighty hand joins them together, just as he made all of their gods parts within a greater whole. With Maglubiyet at the helm, when one kind of goblinoid encounters another kind, the two groups don't see another as strangers or foes. Instead, they know, by the fact of their meeting alone, Maglubiyet has commanded them to come together. They know the time has come to form a host. So in 5th edition, we get the true background of Maglubiyet. He did not create the goblinoids, he demanded their allegiance, and by sheer will, he followed 3 distinct gods to follow him. And as we look through the cultures of hobgoblins, bugbears, and goblins, one common theme now runs through all of them. They do worship Maglubiyet, but again, this is not out of reverence or praise, this is out of fear. They know they will have to answer to Maglubiyet in life and in death. Maglubiyet, being the crafty god he is, allows these greater gods under his command to retain a measure of their influence over the goblins, hobgoblins, and bugbears, because their philosophies are in line with his own. He wants all goblinoid kind. He did not simply wipe these 3 out and take control, he uses them. He knows exactly what the limits of his power and these gods' power are. We're also given a final look into the eternal war between Maglubiyet and Gruumsh. And surely long ago, Gruumsh would have been destroyed by Maglubiyet. Maglubiyet actually has a plan, a cosmic strategy. Though Gruumsh is not alone, the orc god Luthik also understands Maglubiyet's plan, and that is the true equal to Maglubiyet's attacks. To prevent the goblinoids from outstripping her people, she urges the orcs to have many offspring and teach them the ways of battle, not only for survival in the material world, but to keep Maglubiyet at bay in the conflict on the plains. Those who study this conflict expect the stalemate to continue, though over time, if Maglubiyet or Luthik gets the upper hand over this battle, it could be a runaway, and with the endless forces of either side of these finally come to the forefront, it could spell catastrophe for whoever they're against. Infinite hordes of souls that have been battle-hardened over eons of eternal conflict. And so, Maglubiyet's plan is only in the middle of its motion during our time in 5th edition and where we leave off, and many questions about this god still exist. Not much is known about Maglubiyet before he conquered these gods, except for one small fact we find in the stat block of another monster, the Barghest. It is said that long ago, Maglubiyet, master of the goblinoid gods, bargained with the general of Gehenna for aid. The general provided Yugoliths that died to serve the cause of the goblin god. When the time came to honor his pact, Maglubiyet refused to honor the deal. As an act of vengeance, the general of Gehenna created the soul-devouring Barghest to devour goblinoid souls and deprive Maglubiyet of troops for his army in the afterlife. It is believed that this army of Gehenna is the one that assisted Maglubiyet in taking over the goblinoid gods. And as this eternal war rages on, one question still remains. What drives Maglubiyet to such relentless power? What secrets lie behind his ascent to godhood? It seems there is some grand design behind this relentless pursuit of dominance. What creature would take all 3 races of goblinoid and unite them into one? And since nothing is known about Maglubiyet's past life as a goblin, it is almost impossible to tell what his vision is and how close he is to fulfilling that vision. But if anyone has the power to kill an untold amount of deities and conquer 3 greater gods of entire races, that being surely has ambition. And as one of the least mentioned gods in all of D&D, I think the other gods might want to start paying attention to this god of conquering.